What's up guys, Zach Schweitzer here with another tutorial for you. Today we're going to be making the piano patch from Hillsong Young and Free's version of The Stand. This is what your final patch will sound like. All right, let's get started. So we're going to be using all stock Logic and or Mainstage plugins to create this. The only thing I'm using that isn't native to Logic is the piano that I'm using. I'm going to be using Alicia's keys, but it's a basic piano sound is what you want to start with. So the Giant, Ivory, whatever you have, go ahead and use that. All right, let me bypass all these plugins and I'm going to play that piano part for you dry. Alrighty, so the first thing that we're going to put on there is a compressor. I messed around with a couple of the emulations on here and decided on the vintage FET because it actually adds a little bit of grit to the sound, which I like. We've got a threshold at -20, ratio of 2:1, and a very quick attack and release to give you a nice stab on those notes. Next in line, we have a direction mixer. I've changed the spread on this to about 0.6 to give it a more focused effect so that it doesn't take up a ton of space in your mix for playing it live or making a track or whatever it is that you're doing with that. Next, we have a chorus plugin. I've modified this slightly from the default settings. We've got a rate right around 0.5, an intensity of 14.5, and a mix of 22%. Feel free to tweak this chorus to your liking. This is just what I thought sounded good. Next in line, we have Logic Stock Echo plugin. So I have this one set at 16th notes, and we are at 78 BPM here. Our repeat is at 48%, color is at 23, so it's a little bit darker sounding, and then 100% dry and 41% wet to give it the operation similar to bussing it or sending the effect. This is what our patch sounds like with those 4 plugins on it so far. All right, so we're getting closer. Next is a big one. We're gonna put an EQ on there. Now, the goal of this EQ was to take out some of the low end and to give it a little more brightness in that high end. Excuse me while I adjust that EQ. Don't know why it was so large. So we've got our high pass filter at 172 hertz at 36 decibels per octave. And then we have one of our bands at 260 hertz, cutting out 2 decibels with a Q of 1.6, 490 hertz, cutting out 4 decibels with a Q of 2.2. And then this one is actually pretty key. Right around 2000 hertz, you want to boost slightly. I've got 2000 hertz at 3.5 decibels with a Q of 1.4. And then we have a high shelf at 8900 hertz. We've got a pretty significant high shelf, but that's only because we have a low pass filter at 8100 hertz at 36 decibels per octave. All right, now let's move on to the reverb that I have on here. I'm actually bussing this patch to a reverb. I have all the way up to -1.9, so quite a bit of send there, but you can mess around with that based on your preference. The reverb that we're going to be sending it to is Silver Verb. These 3 parameters are the big ones that I think I affected: reflectivity at 90%, size at 74%, and density at 84%. And then I also brought the high cut up a little bit to about 9500 hertz to give it a little more of that sparkle. I have an EQ after that reverb, cutting out some of the low end here, and then cutting out some of the high end while giving a little bit of boost before that low pass filter to get some more of that shimmer from our pseudo shimmer reverb. And this last plugin is something that you can leave in if you like it, take out if you don't. I almost prefer this patch without this, but I do have a pitch shifter on there set up 12 semitones, so it's an octave above the original signal. And then I've got the mix set down at 5%. Don't go too crazy with that mix because it can kind of get away from you. Also, if you're playing this patch live, you might want to consider not using the pitch shifter unless you're pretty confident in your computer's specs. All right, so that's all the plugins that we have on there. Once again, this is what your final patch should sound like. And there you have it, the piano patch from Hillsong Young and Free's version of The Stand. Like and subscribe, comment with any patches below that you would like to see made. I do have a couple coming down the line, so stay tuned for those videos.